Kind Gottes des im Namen des dreifaltigen Geistes, geboren und ausgefahren
Though many may not know it, the horrifying events of the 2005 film The Exorcism of Emily Rose were based on the actual experiences of a German girl named Anneliese Michel. Anneliese Michel was born in Germany on September 21, 1952. She grew up in a devoutly somewhat extreme Catholic family. Michel was brought up along with three sisters by her parents Joseph and Anna. She was very religious and went to Mass twice a week with her family. Pictures of her taken in her childhood show a vibrant, pretty girl on her way to becoming a gorgeous woman. She had shining black hair, an open, honest face, and a stunning smile. When Anneliese was 16, she suddenly blacked out at school and began walking around dazed. Though Anneliese did not remember the event, her friends and family said she was in a trance-like state all week. A year later, she experienced a similar occurrence when she woke up in a trance and wet her bed. Her body also went through a series of convulsions, causing her body to shake uncontrollably. After the second time, Anneliese visited a neurologist who diagnosed her with temporal lobe epilepsy, a disorder that causes seizures, loss of memory, and experienced visual and auditory hallucinations. Temporal lobe epilepsy can also cause Gershwin syndrome, a disorder marked by hyper-religiosity. In June 1970, Michel suffered a third seizure at the psychiatric hospital where she had been staying. She was prescribed anticonvulsant drugs for the first time, including Dilantin, which did not alleviate the problem. She began describing seeing devil faces and at various times of the day. That same month, she was prescribed Aolept, which is similar to chlorpromazine and is used in the treatment of various psychoses, including schizophrenia, disturbed behavior, and delusions. Michel's treatment in the psychiatric hospital did not improve her health and her depression worsened. Long-time treatment did not help her either, and she grew increasingly frustrated with the medical intervention. After taking pharmaceutical drugs for 5 years, Michel became intolerant of Christian sacred places and objects, such as the crucifix. Michel went to San Damiano with a family friend who regularly organized Christian pilgrimages. Her escort concluded that she was suffering from demonic possession because she was unable to walk past the crucifix and refused to drink the water of a Christian holy spring. Anneliese later said that she was unable to enter the shrine. She approached it with the greatest hesitation, then said that the soil burnt like fire, and she simply could not stand it. She then walked around the shrine in a wide arc and tried to approach it from the back. She looked at the people who were kneeling in the area surrounding the little garden, and it seemed to her that while praying, they were gnashing their teeth. She got as far as the edge of the little garden and then she had to turn back. Coming from the front again, she had to avert her glance from the pictures of Christ in the chapel of the house. She made it several times to the garden, but could not get past it. She also noted that she could no longer look at medals or pictures of saints. They sparkled so immensely that she could not stand it. In 1973, Michel graduated and joined the University of Würzburg. Her classmates later described her as withdrawn and very religious. By then, she suffered from depression and began hallucinating while praying and complained about hearing voices. The voice was whispered in her ears, telling her that she was damned and would rot in hell. At this point, Anneliese's delusions had become extreme. Believing she was possessed, she ripped the clothes off her body, performed up to 400 squats a day, crawled under a table and barked like a dog for 2 days. She also ate spiders and coal, bit the head off a dead bird, and licked her own urine from the floor. Michel and the family, as well as their community, believed she was possessed, and after consulting several priests, they asked for an exorcism. Exorcism has existed in various cultures and religions for millennia. The practice became popular in the Catholic Church in the 1500s with priests who would use the Latin phrase Vade retro Satana, go back Satan, to expel the demons from their mortal hosts. Practice of Catholic exorcism was codified in the Ritual Romanum, a book of Christian practices assembled in the 16th century. By the 1960s, exorcism was very rare among Catholics, but a rise in movies and books like The Exorcist in the early 1970s caused a renewed interest in the practice. After looking into Anneliese's case, the priest declined, recommending the continuation of medical treatment, and also informed the family that exorcism required the bishop's permission. In the Catholic Church, official approval for an exorcism is given when the person strictly meets the set criteria. Only then they are considered to be suffering from demonic control and possession. Intense dislikes for religious objects and supernatural powers are some of the first indications. In 1973, Michel started her treatment with Tegretol, an anti-seizure drug and mood stabilizer. She was prescribed antipsychotic drugs and took them frequently until sometime before her death. Despite taking these neuroleptic medications, Michel's symptoms worsened and she began to manifest growling, seeing demons, and throwing things. A priest named Ernst Alt, who went to see Anneliese, declared that she did not look like an epileptic and that he did not see her having seizures. Michel told the priest, "I am nothing. Everything about me is vanity. What should I do? I have to improve. You pray for me." Anneliese also told him, "I want to suffer for other people, but this is so cruel." Alt believed she was suffering from demonic possession and urged the local bishop to allow an exorcism. It was at this time that Bishop Joseph Stangl approved the exorcism of Anneliese Michel, but ordered it also be done in total secrecy. 67 exorcism sessions, 1 or 2 each week, lasting up to 4 hours, were performed over a 10-month period in 1975 to 1976. On July 1st, 1976, Anneliese Michel died in her home. The autopsy report stated the cause was malnutrition and dehydration due to being in a semi-starvation state for almost a year while the rites of exorcism were performed. She weighed 30 kilograms, 68 pounds, suffering from broken knees due to continuous genuflections. She was even made to pray on her broken knees for hours. She was unable to move without assistance and was reported to have contracted pneumonia. After investigation, the state prosecutor maintained that Michel's death could have been prevented even a week before she died. In 1976, the state charged Michel's parents and priests Ernst Alt and Arnold Renz with negligent homicide. During the case, Michel's body was exhumed, and the tapes were played to the court of the exorcisms over the 11 months which led to her death. The parents were defended by Erich Schmidt-Leichner. Their lawyers were sponsored by the church. The state recommended that no involved parties be jailed. Instead, the recommended sentence for the priest was a fine, while the prosecution concluded that the parents should be exempt from punishment as they had suffered enough. The trial started on the 30th of March 1978 in the district court and it drew intense interest. Before the courts, the doctor testified that Michel was not possessed, stating that this was a psychological effect because of her strict religious upbringing and her epilepsy. The defense said the exorcism was legal and that the German constitution protected citizens in the unrestricted exercise of their religious beliefs. The defense played tapes recorded at the exorcism sessions, sometimes featuring what was claimed to be demons arguing, to assert their claim that Michel was possessed. The strange voice of 23-year-old Anneliese Michel reverberated through the hushed courtroom, screaming obscenities at the ancient chants of priests. The spectators who crowded into the district courtroom sat transfixed, staring at a raised wood cross on the wall. At one point, the dead woman's sister fled from the courtroom sobbing. Both priests said the demons identify themselves as Lucifer, Cain, Judas, Belial, Legion, and Nero, amongst others. They further said that she was finally freed because of the exorcism just before her death. The bishop said he was not aware of her alarming health condition when he approved of the exorcism and did not testify. The accused were found guilty of manslaughter resulting from negligence and were sentenced to 6 months in jail, which was later suspended, and 3 years of probation. It was a far lighter sentence than anticipated, but it was more than requested by the prosecution, who had asked that the priests only be fined and that the parents be found guilty but not punished. The church approving such an old-fashioned exorcism rite drew public and media attention, and according to John M. Duffy, the case was a misidentification of a mental illness. After the trial, the parents asked the authorities for permission to exhume the remains of their daughter. The official reason presented by the parents to authorities was that Anneliese Michel had been buried in undue hurry in a cheap coffin. Almost 2 years after her burial, on February 25, 1978, her remains were replaced in a new oak coffin lined with tin. The official reports state that the body bore the signs of consistent deterioration. The surprising thing is that people who connect to Michel are completely convinced that she had really been possessed. Buses, often from Holland, still to this day, travel to Anneliese's grave. The grave is a gathering point for religious outsiders. They write notes with requests and thanks for help and leave them on the grave. They pray, sing, and travel on. Is the true story of Anneliese Michel of religion over science or science over religion? Did Anneliese Michel die in her victory over evil to suffer and save us all? Or did she die a mentally ill woman left to die by people who should have known better? You decide.
Welcome to my channel. This is Mr. Scary.